March 7th, 1951. 20th Century Fox Studios, Executive Building, 2:47 p.m. Marilyn Monroe, 24 years old, sat in the waiting room outside Darryl F. Zanuck's office. Her hands were shaking. She knew why she'd been summoned. 2 days earlier, her studio-assigned doctor had confirmed what she already suspected. She was pregnant. And in 1951, Hollywood, for an unmarried contract actress, pregnancy meant one thing: career death. The door opened. Zanuck's secretary, a stern woman in her 50s, gestured coldly. "Mr. Zanuck will see you now." Marilyn walked into the massive office. Darryl F. Zanuck, one of the most powerful men in Hollywood, sat behind an enormous mahogany desk. He didn't stand, didn't smile, just stared at her with cold, calculating eyes. "Sit down, Marilyn." She sat. "I received a report from Dr. Siegel. You're pregnant." Marilyn's voice was barely a whisper. "Yes." "Who's the father?" "I'd rather not say." Zanuck leaned forward. "I don't care about your privacy. I care about my investment. You're under contract to this studio. We've spent money building your image, and you're about to destroy it." "Mr. Zanuck, You have two choices, Marilyn. You terminate this pregnancy immediately, or I terminate your contract. Which is it?" What happened in the next 48 hours would haunt Marilyn Monroe for the rest of her life. And 57 years later, the doctor who performed the procedure would leave behind a diary that exposed the cruelty of Hollywood's studio system. Let's go back. To understand what happened to Marilyn, you need to understand the studio contract system of the 1940s and 1950s. Studios didn't just employ actors, they owned them. When you signed a contract with a studio like 20th Century Fox, MGM, or Warner Brothers, you gave up control of your entire life. The studio decided what movies you made, what you wore, who you dated, where you lived, even whether you could have children. And if you violated the morality clause in your contract, which included getting pregnant out of wedlock, the studio could destroy you, blacklist you, make sure you never worked in Hollywood again. Marilyn Monroe signed her contract with 20th Century Fox in 1947. She was 21 years old, desperate for a career, and she signed away her freedom. But here's where everything changes. Because in early 1951, Marilyn fell in love with someone the studio didn't approve of. January 1951. Marilyn met Elia Kazan, the famous director. He was 41, married, brilliant, and dangerous for Marilyn's career. They began an affair, secret meetings, late nights, passionate and intense. Kazan promised Marilyn he would leave his wife, that he would make her a serious actress, that she was more than just a pretty face. Marilyn believed him. By February, she suspected she was pregnant. She told Kazan. His response was immediate and cold. "You need to take care of this." "What do you mean?" "Marilyn, I'm married. I have children. You can't have this baby." "But you said you loved me." "You said..." "I do love you. But this isn't the right time. You're just starting your career. A baby would ruin everything." "For you or for me?" Kazan didn't answer. 2 days later, he stopped returning her calls. Marilyn was alone, pregnant, and terrified. Don't miss this detail. Because when the studio found out, they didn't offer help. They offered an ultimatum, March 7th, 1951, back in Zanuck's office. "Mr. Zanuck, I want to keep the baby." Zanuck laughed, a cruel, dismissive laugh. "Keep the baby? Are you insane? You're an unmarried actress. This would destroy your career before it even starts." "But I could get married. The father could..." "The father is Elia Kazan, a married man, a famous director." Do you think he's going to leave his wife for you? Do you think he's going to claim this baby? Marilyn's eyes filled with tears. You don't understand. I've always wanted to be a mother. Then you should have thought about that before you got pregnant. You're 24 years old. You have your whole life ahead of you. But not if you make this mistake. It's not a mistake. It's my baby. Zanuck's voice turned ice cold. It's a problem, and problems get solved. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to see Dr. Marcus Rabwin tomorrow morning. He's going to perform a procedure. You'll recover for a few days, and then you'll get back to work. And we'll never speak of this again. And if I refuse, then your contract is terminated. You'll never work in this town again. I'll make sure of it. You'll be blacklisted, branded as difficult, unreliable. No studio will touch you. Marilyn sat there, trapped. She had no money, no power, no options. Do I have a choice? You always have a choice, Marilyn, but only one choice is smart. You're not going to believe what happened the next morning, March 8th, 1951. 8 a.m., Cedars of Lebanon Hospital, private surgical wing. Marilyn arrived alone. No friends, no family. Just her and the terrible decision she'd been forced to make. Dr. Marcus Rabwin was waiting. Studio doctor, fixer of problems. Performer of procedures that never officially happened. Miss Monroe, please change into the gown and we'll get started. Doctor, I need to ask you something. Is there any way I could keep this baby? No. But if I... Miss Monroe, I'm not here to discuss options. I'm here to perform a procedure that the studio has requested and that you've consented to. Now, we can do this the easy way, with anesthesia, or we can do it the hard way. Your choice. Marilyn changed into the hospital gown, lay on the cold table, started crying. A nurse came over, younger, kinder. Miss Monroe, would you like someone to hold your hand? Yes, please. The nurse held Marilyn's hand as the anesthesiologist prepared the IV. Count backwards from 10. 10, 9, 8, my baby, 7. I'm so sorry. 6, please forgive me. 5. Marilyn's eyes closed. The procedure took 22 minutes. When she woke up an hour later, it was over. Hold up, because what Dr. Rabwin wrote in his private diary that night would remain hidden for 57 years. March 8th, 1951, 11 p.m. Dr. Rabwin sat in his study at home, writing in his private medical diary. He'd kept this diary for 20 years. Detailed notes on every procedure, every patient, every studio secret. The entry for March 8th, 1951. Performed termination procedure on Norma Jean Mortensen. Stage name Marilyn Monroe. Patient was 8 weeks pregnant. Father unknown, though studio indicated it was Elia Kazan. Patient was extremely distressed. Cried throughout prep. Said repeatedly, I want my baby, and please don't make me do this. During anesthesia induction, patient said, You're killing my baby. That statement has haunted me all day. This was not a woman who wanted this procedure. This was a woman who was coerced. The studio, specifically Darryl Zanuck, forced her into this, threatened her career, gave her no real choice. I performed the procedure because I'm paid to solve studio problems. But something broke in her today. I saw it in her eyes when she woke up. The light was gone. She looked at me and said, I'm a murderer. I told her she wasn't. But she didn't believe me. I don't think she'll ever forgive herself. And I'm not sure I'll forgive myself either. But this is Hollywood. And this is the price of stardom. Don't miss this revelation. Because Dr. Rabwin's diary documented 14 other forced procedures on actresses over 20 years. Dr. Rabwin's diary, discovered after his death in 2008, revealed a horrifying pattern. Between 1940 and 1962, he performed forced termination procedures on at least 14 contract actresses, all ordered by studios, all threatened with career destruction if they refused. The names in the diary included some of Hollywood's biggest stars. Most are still alive, so their names remain sealed. But the pattern was always the same. Actress gets pregnant. Studio finds out. Studio gives ultimatum. Terminate or be terminated. Actress complies. Career continues. Trauma hidden forever. Dr. Rabwin wrote about his own guilt. I am a doctor. I took an oath to do no harm. But for 20 years, I've been harming young women at the request of powerful men. I've performed procedures on women who begged me not to. Women who cried. Women who said they wanted their babies. And I did it anyway, because the studio paid me, because I was afraid of losing my position, because I was a coward. Marilyn Monroe was one of many, but her case haunts me most, because I saw what it did to her, the guilt, the shame, the grief. And I know that guilt followed her for the rest of her life. This is where everything changes, because Marilyn never recovered from that forced abortion of March 1951 to August 1962. For the next 11 years, Marilyn Monroe carried the guilt and grief of that forced abortion. Friends and therapists later described her obsession with motherhood. She wanted desperately to be a mother, to have children, to prove she wasn't the murderer she believed herself to be. She became pregnant at least 3 more times. 1957, pregnant with Arthur Miller's child, miscarried. 1958, pregnant again with Arthur Miller, ectopic pregnancy, nearly died. 1960, possible pregnancy, outcome unknown. Each loss devastated her. Each loss reinforced the belief that she was being punished for the 1951 abortion. Her therapist, Dr. Ralph Greenson, wrote in his notes, "Patient obsessed with abortion, forced on her in 1951. Believes she's being punished, says she killed her first baby and now can't have children. Severe guilt and shame, self-blame, depression worsening." Marilyn told friends about the forced abortion. "They made me kill my baby, Darryl Zanuck, the studio. They said I had no choice. But I did have a choice. I should have said no. I should have walked away. But I was weak, and I've paid for it ever since." You won't believe how the studio tried to cover this up even after Marilyn's death. When Marilyn died in 1962, the studio moved quickly to protect itself. All of Marilyn's medical records from 1951 disappeared. Dr. Rabwin was told to destroy any files related to Marilyn. The studio wants no evidence of any procedures performed on Miss Monroe. Dr. Rabwin complied publicly. He told investigators he had no records of treating Marilyn in 1951. But privately, he kept his diary, because he knew someday the truth would matter. When Darryl Zanuck died in 1979, he took the secret to his grave. When Elia Kazan died in 2003, he never publicly acknowledged the affair or the pregnancy. The secret stayed buried for decades. Until 2008, when Dr. Rabwin died and his family found the diary. June 2008. Dr. Rabwin's daughter, Elizabeth Rabwin Cohen, was sorting through her father's belongings. In a locked file cabinet, she found 30 years of medical diaries. The entry about Marilyn Monroe shocked her. "I can't believe my father did this. He forced Marilyn Monroe to have an abortion she didn't want. And he documented it. And he felt guilty, but he never spoke up." Elizabeth contacted a medical ethicist. These diaries document serious medical ethics violations, procedures performed under coercion, patients who didn't give meaningful consent. This is important historical evidence. "But my father is dead. The patients are dead. The studio executives are dead. What's the point of revealing this now? The point is truth. The point is showing how the studio system abused women. The point is making sure this never happens again. Hold on. Because when Elizabeth tried to publish the diary, the studio tried to stop her. July 2008. Elizabeth contacted a publisher about releasing excerpts from her father's diary. Before the book deal was finalized, she received a letter from 20th Century Fox's legal team. Dear Ms. Rabwin Cohen, it has come to our attention that you possess medical records related to former studio contract players. These records are confidential medical information. Publishing them would violate HIPAA regulations and patient privacy rights. We strongly advise against publication. Elizabeth hired a lawyer. Can they stop me? The patients are deceased. HIPAA doesn't apply to the dead, and this is a matter of historical importance. You have First Amendment protections, but they'll make it expensive. Fox offered Elizabeth $250,000 to keep the diary private. She refused. This isn't about money. This is about showing what Hollywood did to women like Marilyn Monroe. They need to know the truth. The legal battle lasted 6 months. In January 2009, a judge ruled in Elizabeth's favor. The diary can be published. The public interest in understanding Hollywood's treatment of women outweighs any privacy concerns for deceased individuals. March 2009. Hollywood's darkest secret, a studio doctor's diary, was published. The excerpts about Marilyn Monroe's forced abortion made headlines worldwide. Marilyn Monroe forced into abortion by studio chief. Darryl Zanuck threatened Marilyn's career unless she terminated pregnancy. Doctor's diary reveals Marilyn's grief. You're killing my baby. The public reaction was immediate. Outrage, sympathy for Marilyn, condemnation of the studio system. But 20th Century Fox released a statement. These alleged events occurred nearly 60 years ago under different management. The current studio does not condone any form of coercion. We have no way to verify the accuracy of these diary entries. Translation: we're not taking responsibility. In March 1951, Marilyn Monroe was forced by studio chief Darryl F. Zanuck to terminate a pregnancy or lose her career. The procedure was performed by studio doctor Marcus Rabwin on a patient who cried and begged him not to do it. Marilyn never recovered from the trauma. She spent the rest of her life desperately trying to have children. Each pregnancy loss reinforced her belief that she was being punished. Dr. Rabwin documented everything in his private diary, which remained hidden for 57 years. When published in 2009, it exposed the systematic abuse of women in Hollywood's golden age. Darryl Zanuck forced at least 14 actresses into abortions to protect studio investments. And Marilyn Monroe was his most famous victim. In a 2010 interview, Elizabeth said, "My father felt guilty his entire life about what he did to Marilyn Monroe and other actresses. He documented it because he knew it was wrong. But he never spoke up while he was alive. I'm speaking up for him now. These women deserve to have their stories told. Marilyn deserves for people to know she didn't choose that abortion. It was forced on her by powerful men who valued money over her humanity." Today, Dr. Rabwin's diary is used in medical ethics courses as an example of coercion violating informed consent. It's referenced in women's studies courses about systemic abuse in entertainment industry. And it's cited in every serious biography of Marilyn Monroe as crucial evidence of the trauma that shaped her life. Some choices aren't choices at all. Some procedures are acts of violence. Some guilt lasts forever. Dr. Marcus Rabwin, 1910-2008. He documented the abuse, but never stopped it. Marilyn Monroe, 1926-1962. They killed her baby in 1951, and it killed part of her too. If you found this story shocking, please like this video and subscribe to our channel. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss our next investigation into Marilyn Monroe's hidden truth. Comment below. Should studios be held accountable for the abuse they inflicted on actresses decades ago? The studio executive gave her an ultimatum. The doctor performed the procedure, and Marilyn Monroe spent the rest of her life grieving the baby she was forced to kill.